Article 8, Non-Extractive Natural Resource Business. 1. A person shall be exempt from corporate tax, and the provisions of this decree law shall not apply to its non-extractive natural resource business where all of the following conditions are met. A. The person directly or indirectly holds or has an interest in a right, concession or license issued by a local government to undertake its non-extractive natural resource business in the state. B. The person's income from its non-extractive natural resource business is derived solely from persons that undertake a business or business activity. C. The person is effectively subject to tax under the applicable legislation of an emirate in accordance with the provisions of Clause 6 of this article. D. The person has made a notification to the ministry in the form and manner agreed with the local government. 2. If a person that meets the conditions of Clause 1 of this article derives income from both a non-extractive natural resource business and any other business that is within the scope of this decree law, the following shall apply. A. The income derived from the non-extractive natural resource business shall be calculated and taxed according to the applicable legislation of the emirate. B. The income derived from the other business shall be subject to this decree law, unless that other business meets the conditions to be exempt from corporate tax under Article 7 of this decree law. 3. For the purposes of Clause 2 of this article, a person shall not be considered to derive income from any other business where such other business is ancillary or incidental to that person's non-extractive natural resource business and the revenue of such other business in a tax period does not exceed 5% of the total revenue of that person in the same tax period. 4. For the purposes of calculating the taxable income of the person's other business, the following shall apply. A. The other business shall be treated as an independent business, and financial statements shall be kept for this business separately from the non-extractive natural resource business. B. Any common expenditure shared between the non-extractive natural resource business and other business of the person shall be apportioned in proportion to their revenue in a tax period, unless such expenditure is taken into account in a different proportion for the purposes of calculating the tax payable by the person under the applicable legislation of the relevant emirate in respect of its non-extractive natural resource business, in which case the expenditure will be apportioned in the latter proportion. C. The person shall calculate the taxable income for the other business independently for each tax period in accordance with the provisions of this decree law. 5. Transactions between the non-extractive natural resource business and any other business of the same person shall be considered related party transactions subject to the provisions of Article 34 of this decree law, unless such other business is exempt from corporate tax under Article 7 of this decree law. 6. A person shall be considered effectively subject to tax under the applicable legislation of the emirate, for the purposes of this article if the local government imposes a tax on income or profits, a royalty or revenue tax, or any other form of tax, charge or levy in respect of such person's non-extractive natural resource business. 7. The exemption under this article shall not apply to contractors, subcontractors, suppliers or any other person used or contemplated to be used in any part of the performance of the non-extractive natural resource business that does not in its own right meets the conditions to be exempt from corporate tax under this article or Article 7 of this decree law. Article 9, Qualifying Public Benefit Entity. 1. A qualifying public benefit entity shall be exempt from corporate tax where all of the following conditions are met. A. It is established and operated for any of the following. 1. Exclusively for religious, charitable, scientific, artistic, cultural, athletic, educational, healthcare, environmental, humanitarian, animal protection or other similar purposes. 2. As a professional entity, chamber of commerce, or a similar entity operated exclusively for the promotion of social welfare or public benefit. B. It does not conduct a business or business activity, except for such activities that directly relate to or are aimed at fulfilling the purpose for which the entity was established. C. Its income or assets are used exclusively in the furtherance of the purpose for which it was established, or for the payment of any associated necessary and reasonable expenditure incurred. D. No part of its income or assets is payable to, or otherwise available, for the personal benefit of any shareholder, member, trustee, founder or settler that is not itself a qualifying public benefit entity, government entity or government-controlled entity. E. Any other conditions as may be prescribed in a decision issued by the Cabinet at the suggestion of the Minister. 2. The exemption under Clause 1 of this article shall be effective from the beginning of the tax period in which the qualifying public benefit entity is listed in the Cabinet decision issued at the suggestion of the Minister or any other date determined by the Minister. 3. For the purposes of monitoring the continued compliance by a qualifying public benefit entity with the conditions of Clause 1 of this article, the authority may request any relevant information or records from the qualifying public benefit entity within the timeline specified by the authority. Article 10, Qualifying Investment Fund. 1. An investment fund may apply to the authority to be exempt from corporate tax as a qualifying investment fund where all of the following conditions are met. A. The investment fund or the investment fund's manager is subject to the regulatory oversight of a competent authority in the state, or a foreign competent authority recognized for the purposes of this article. B. Interests in the investment fund are traded on a recognized stock exchange, or are marketed and made available sufficiently widely to investors. C. The main or principal purpose of the investment fund is not to avoid corporate tax. D. Any other conditions as may be prescribed in a decision issued by Cabinet at the suggestion of the Minister. 2. For the purposes of monitoring the continued compliance by a qualifying investment fund with the conditions of Clause 1 of this article, the authority may request any relevant information or records within the timeline prescribed by the authority.